This is the Bionicle Inspiration Series, the show where we focus on Bionicle MOCs throughout the Bionicle community to inspire you. We take a specific theme, we take a look at some MOCs, tips, tricks, just some general discussion about them, see what's going on, take a look at some cool stuff, and just have a good time. And today we're going to have an even better time because we're going to be talking about a community spotlight, which I always enjoy doing. We are going to be focusing on a Toa Mata Collab, 6 Heroes, 1 Destiny. This is everyone kind of revamping the Toa Mata, so obviously 6 different MOCs here, not including Takanuva. That's a disappointment. I like my Taka. I guess it's the Toa Mata, and he's kind of more Toa Nuva in that sense. All right, you win this time. But I like Takanuva, so I'm unbiased. Regardless, though, these are 6 awesome revamps of the Toa Mata. So hey, by all means, if you're looking to revamp something, or you just really like the Toa Mata, this one's for you. But also, hey, let's see what these specific MOCs are doing, how they're revamping these characters. So if you want to revamp a Toa Mata character or any Toa Bionicle character, maybe there's some stuff you can learn here that might give you a bit of inspiration. So let's dive on in as we always do, and we'll start with the very first MOC in this Toa Mata collab, and this is by Petersheikah. And I mean, of course, it's Lewa, but I'm sure you already knew that. So right off the bat, there's a really cool looking axe design that Lewa has here, of course. Lewa's kind of famous for his axe. That's how he looked in the original Toa Mata toy that existed there. But I like this different take. It's a little bit sort of... It's actually probably roughly the same size, but it's a little bit shorter. It's got more of a sort of handle as well. And it's interesting how it's sort of integrated into the arm there, giving it this nice little sort of subtle curve, which I think is actually quite effective. But the actual axe head piece there is connected with some like droid arms and things, but it's using a minifigure weapon piece that would have come on this collectible minifigure here. But it also came in a few other different colors and things in some... Orient Expedition Lego Adventurer sets, which awesome sets, some of my favorite Lego themes. But I like that idea for the axe. It's cool because I don't know, I was going to say that this revamp is probably smaller than the original Lewa Mata, but I forget the Toa Mata were kind of smaller than your typical Onika builds. It's actually probably roughly the same size, but regardless, I think it's a really cool idea to take that original Lewa axe piece and build it using other kind of pre-existing parts, because it works really well and it looks really, really cool, and it's just an effective way of doing an axe there. So maybe you could do that yourself if you have some of those specific sword pieces, or you have just other minifigure utensil elements, weapons, swords, things, whatever. Yeah, find a way to attach it onto an axe or a scythe or some other kind of Bionicle weapon. And I don't know, just see what you can do, because it makes for a really effective weapon design here, I think. And this is probably my favorite part of this revamp of Lewa here. And that's saying something, because the rest of this MOC is actually quite lovely, so let's talk about it. I love how he's done the waist design here, these 2 sort of beams that sort of branch out on the sides like that, very reminiscent of how the actual torsos kind of sort of looked on the original Toa Mata, and that's kind of a trope across a lot of Bionicle, really. Like even the Toa Mata Nui robot has that sort of aesthetic of that sort of, I don't know, kind of very sort of piston robot heavy torso design like that. I've always liked how that looks, so I always enjoy seeing it in different Bionicles here, but using the sort of like kind of sort of mixel joints and other sort of unique pieces there. I don't even know what that green piece is. I don't recognize that. I don't know if that's a non-official Lego piece. I don't know what that is. Still, though, it does look like it has a bit of torso articulation, so 10 points for you. That's awesome to see. That joke will never die. And I also quite enjoyed the limbs on this Lewa revamp here. The fact that the lower legs are essentially just using just straight up lime green Hero Factory bone pieces there works perfectly. You know, it's quite reminiscent of the original one, which was a little bit more of a sort of slimmed down design like that. Didn't have any armor on it because that's just how the pieces worked back then. And so I think that's a really effective way of translating that. And it gives it a bit more posability as well. It works. I think it works well. And even the arms are pretty cool too, using sort of lift arm elements and things there, just with little sort of subtle system additions just to kind of fill it in a bit. Very minimal, not using a lot of pieces, but it's a great way of building a still pretty decent looking arm design on a much sort of smaller scale here, because, you know, like I said, this is smaller than your average Onika build here, but it works well. So lovely little revamp of Lewa. Might be my favorite. There's some other pretty cool ones in this one, but I very much enjoy this rendition of Lewa. And Lewa was always my favorite character, so still biased. Well, favorite of the Toa Mata, Takanuva's my favorite. So let's move on to the next one here. This is by Bionicles. Still, like, Lewa might be my favorite Bionicle of the Toa Mata, excluding Takanuva, but Bionicles. That might be my favorite Bionicle username. I like that. And this, of course, is Gali, Toa of Water. So, nice little revamp of Gali that we've got going on here. Of course, Gali being the only female on the team. She has a sort of slightly different body shape to her because of that. Now, of course, males and females, we all come in different shapes and sizes and things, but, when you're looking at, like this drawing guide here, for example, females and males naturally have a difference in their body shape, no matter, the size or shape of the actual person themselves. Females typically have a more sort of hourglass shape to their sort of female form, and males have a more sort of like broad-shouldered, kind of, masculine look. I don't know how to describe that, but regardless, there's differences there, and it's important to sort of study that. It's pretty easy to do, just sort of, Google like drawing guides between males and females, or just sort of look at anatomy charts and things like that, and it can actually be quite helpful to, when you're building a Bionicle character in this nature here, so, nice to see the sort of difference there that obviously works well and represents it there. It's also nice to see the blue and the medium blue used on this MOC here, because of course that is the color scheme that was originally on Gali. Even the fact that some of the other areas there use black elements, because that's also how Gali looked on the original toy. And of course you could kind of be tempted, I guess, if you're revamping any of these guys, to just stick to one stock standard colors. But yep, they're blue because it's Gali, boom. But actually, we saw it with Lewa. He had lime, he had green, he had black. Now we look at Gali here, the medium blue, the blue, and sort of the trans blue with the mask as well. There were multiple shades. It's how they looked. So, that's something to consider too. Do you want to stick to the exact color scheme that the character had, or do you want to strip back some of those colors, maybe even add some more, Maybe some nice hints of yellow could work well on Gali here, or some green, I don't know, could work nice. And maybe it'll work nice on your revamp of Gali, but you just have to see. But it's also what tickles your fancy. Are you going for a really distinct one-to-one scale comparison of Gali, which wouldn't be much of a revamp if it's a one-to-one scale comparison, but you know what I'm saying, how much do you want to adhere to the original versus change it up yourself and add your own personal touches to it. So it's nice. And some of the system additions there on the lower legs, I think work really well, just sort of rounds out the design there, and it's always nice to see system with your Bionicle. You gotta marry the two. It's a nice combo, So yeah, lovely little revamp of Gali here. I also thoroughly enjoy these edited backgrounds that all of these MOCs have here. These were edited by DV-MOCs. We're going to talk about his one of his Bionicles in this a little bit later, but by all means, check them out. There'll be links in the description below, because they're actually pretty good at editing them. They did a wonderful job here. I love how this looks, so love your work. Up next, we have a MOC by carecreations, and this is Tahu, Toa of Fire. So this one's a bit of a departure from the original, but I like that. So far we've seen revamps that are very, very close to how they looked, but this one's different, but I like how it's different. So it does say here on Instagram that this is taking a bit of inspiration from Maori culture. Of course, that is a big influence of Bionicle itself. So I sort of looked up like Maori warrior and things like that, and I can see sort of like subtle similarities between that, and I assume that was the inspiration here. He doesn't go into specific detail on Instagram here, so I can't say that with 100% that's what this is, but it certainly appears that way. And I think that's a great idea. You don't really see that too much on a Bionicle revamp or any kind of Bionicle characters to a degree. So yeah, it's certainly an interesting place to get inspiration from, and a very unique take on Tahu because of it. So really, really cool. Interesting choice to use the corrupted Tahu mask there, which could be more reminiscent of the sort of like face paint that I was showing in that image before, and some of the other sort of stuff on the head there. I don't know the names of that sort of thing. I didn't necessarily do any research on that. I apologize. So I'm not gonna name those things. I don't know what they are, but certainly looks cool. It's a very unique way of doing that head design. I also enjoy the weapon that they have here, and especially with the inclusion of the cape that came on the minifigure Chief Aku. Don't know how you pronounce it, but it's an awesome looking, beautiful looking cape design there. So that's a nice addition there, and ties in with the rest of the color scheme on Tahu here as well, with the orange and the red. I also enjoy the inclusion of the masks on the shoulders there. Those two howls work really well there, and also the Vahi, the Mask of Time, on the torso there, just sort of kind of rounding off this awesome skirt design that is being used here, and sort of tying it in with the rest of the body. It's a nice little kind of transition there. It's really cool. So really nice inclusion of that mask there. And of course, I mentioned that sort of skirt sort of a waistcoat thing. I don't know what you would specifically call that, but using a whole bunch of these very tiny little orange leaf pieces here, which recently were on the Pick-a-Brick wall for me at my Lego store, so they might be on your Pick-a-Brick wall too. Of course, that varies. You may not even have a Lego store, unfortunately, but, you know, those leaf pieces are a bit more easy to come across these days. So, hey, that's a really, really nice looking little design there, and works well, and uses some pieces that are easy to come by, which is always nice. So yeah, really unique take on Tahu here, something very different, which is always something to think about. If you are going to revamp something, what if you did just go crazy out there and do something completely out of the blue, not even close to the original, or look to the roots of the character, give it a Google, do a bit of research. Was there something that specifically inspired that character from the original designers of the sets? Could you look a bit more into that and explore some other avenues within that and see what you can do, you know? So it's an interesting concept. I really like it. Before we continue, here's a word from our sponsors. Cheap Bionicle parts.
Wow!
Cheap Bionicle sets.
Wow!
Custom Bionicle sets.
Wow!
Oh boy, you gotta hear this one. Head on over to bionicleforlife.co.uk right now and check out the awesome selection of Bionicle parts, posters, sets, and more.
That's tight!
If you're looking to grow your skills as a Bionicle builder, there are workshops that you can attend, and there are some custom MOCs that you can buy.
No way!
I mean it! Head over to bionicleforlife.co.uk right now and relive your childhood by buying some classic sets and parts to help you build.
Oh man!
Come on, dude! What are you waiting for?
Get to it!
On to the next MOC. This is by Jack Engineer 489, and of course this is Onua, our boy, the Toe of Earth. So a very different way of doing the claw design that was on Onua. Obviously originally that was just one specific piece. So it's really nice to see it being done here with a bit more kind of posability to it. So you know, you can see in some of these images here that it is moving it around and stuff, which is pretty cool. And of course using some of these larger sort of tooth claw pieces that you got a bunch of them on the fire villains like Jetbug and stuff. And they come in a variety of different colors and sets and things as well. But you know, that's one specific place that those came in for reference if you need it. Now, I thoroughly enjoy this take on Onua. There's something that's a little bit creepy about it, which I actually kind of like, you know? I don't hate the idea of a more sort of horror-inspired Onua, which I don't know if that was the original intention here, but some of these poses, the fact that the claws are a bit more posable and, I mean, they are claws, you know? And even the eyes a little bit there using a more sort of, what I believe is a bit more of a custom head design there. There's no real sort of close-up photos of it. It's a little hard to tell. But the eyes on Onua look a little bit sort of bigger and more menacing there. So there is something a little bit more horrific about it. Again, I don't know if that was the intention, but I am getting that. And, you know, regardless of that being the intention or not, it's still a kind of cool idea of doing, like, horror-inspired versions of the Toa Mata or any Bionicle characters, you know? Or what if Bionicle was a horror movie or something? I don't know, you know? It's an interesting idea and a unique way of taking it. So, yeah, something to consider. Maybe there's some ideas for you if you want to take them. I also enjoy some of the little greebly details across this here, whether that's on the upper arm there using that Bionicle piece or that chainsaw piece, and even just some of the sort of aesthetic on the lower legs as well. You know, we can see some of those sort of minifigure like grappling hook sort of line crossing things. I don't know what you'd call them, but that minifigure utensil piece that's essentially on the kneecap there. And also just the aesthetic in general, which has this very sort of mechanical look to it, is awesome. And again, very reminiscent of the original Toa Mata as well. So nice to see some fun little greeble details there that certainly get that job done and make it look really something special. So that's awesome. So really nice take on Onua here. Let's move over to the next MOC. This is by DVMOCs, who we mentioned before, who he edited all these photos together. Good job, good sir. And this is, of course, Kopaka Toa of Air, or Kopaka. Still to this day, I say Kopaka for whatever reason. That's just how I said it as a kid, and I'm still stuck to saying it. I gotta say it like 50,000 times, and then I'll get used to it. Ironically, fun fact, not related to Bionicle at all, I used to struggle saying the word thief. I used to say thief. Or thief, I don't know. But I just said it about 10,000 times when I was doing a play when I used to act. And I was just, the director was like, you're saying it wrong. I was like, oh, dang. And so I just went home and I was like, thief, 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 thief. And now I say it flawlessly. And I've started saying it with the word genuine. I don't know if you've noticed it in some Bionicle episodes. I say it. I'm like, genuinely. I said it perfectly there, didn't I? I can't replicate it now in person. But I've been struggling with that. And general. There, I'm doing it now. Genuinely. I struggle with it for whatever reason now. So I've got to say it 10,000 times and I'll be good. But I've got to say the same with Kopaka. So Kopaka. Here we go. Kopaka. So let's talk about Kopaka, not about my issues with speaking, I guess. I don't know. I'm normally pretty good with that sort of thing. I've studied speech, so I should be good. Anyway, this is a revamp of Kopaka, and it's really awesome. I love the different take on the shield here. So, of course, this is using the Skrull shield piece, but it's white, not red, which I would argue this is a custom, unless this is some crazy misprint, which I don't think it is. But it looks nice and white. I think it's pretty cool, and it's nice to see a different take on the shield for Kopaka here. No, I'm like picking up on it as I'm saying it now. It's tough. Anyway, so I also like that in terms of kind of the lore of Bionicle, because when you go back to like some of the Baramagna era of Bionicle, obviously the Skrulls had it, but there were also areas within Baramagna itself which had that sort of specific aesthetic to it. With I think it was the maze that there was like the codex or the something that unlocked the Toa Mata robot, or the second robot that fought the Pterodax robot, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I like the fact that I don't know, that symbol kind of cropping up on different Bionicles and stuff. It just feels really sort of in-universe, you know what I mean? So it's been a bit since I brushed up on some of my Bionicle lore, so I apologize if there's super hardcore nerd lore people out there who are like, you got those facts wrong or something. I apologize, but that's what I remember from the comics as a kid. So, but I love that addition. Very sort of subtle, but very cool, and works really well here. I also enjoy the little edits that he's done on the sword, giving it this sort of blue glow. Gives it this sort of ice effect, which, hey, look, if you're good with your Photoshop, you're good with your editing, I don't know, you use Canva, whatever you use, do it. Because, hey, sometimes, like, especially on this mock here and some of the other images on Mr. DV Mox's Instagram, it can really enhance the look of the character. So, yeah, by all means, if you're good with that sort of stuff, play around with it and use it to enhance your mocks, because it'll get the job done, you know? Additionally, some of the actual like construction of the mock now, I like the kind of lower leg design using some of these armor plate pieces here. Just sort of rounds off the sides there and creates quite a nice looking lower leg design there, especially with those tooth pieces that kind of all, I don't know, just sort of bridge those gaps and sort of fuse those pieces all together like that, giving it some smooth angles and stuff. It's very nice. And just in general, there's a more sort of slimmed down aesthetic to Kopaka, but he looks a bit more sort of muscular, much more than Lewa did in that sense. So I like that. There's this real sort of like warrior fighter aesthetic to Kopaka here, which I enjoy. So yeah, just a nice sort of attention to detail there, and a great kind of characterization of Kopaka. I think this represents him pretty well. So nice work. And finally, we'll move over to a mock by ems-mocs, and this, of course, is Pohatu, which is another fantastic Toa character, or as I had a friend call it recently, Potato, which, you know, not quite, but, you know, it kind of looks like it if you squint your eyes or something, but it's Pohatu. So I love this version of Pohatu here. I like the fact that when we've looked at all the other characters before, they have had a more sort of slim aesthetic to them, which sort of is more reminiscent of the original toys themselves, because that's just how they looked. But Pohatu here has a more sort of, I don't know, for lack of a better term, kind of sporty aesthetic to him, which seems fitting because he's kind of always playing soccer, right? You know, with the boulders, with the kicky feet and stuff. That's kind of his shtick, you know? And I like that, you know? He looks like he has sort of, you know, muscles on his legs, sort of, you know, thicker arm muscles at the top there and stuff. And he does have a bit more of a sort of broad-shouldered look. He looks a bit taller and everything, and I like that. It's also cool to see him as more of the sort of, I don't know, slightly more of the kind of bruiser buffer character there, you know. I would argue he does sort of have more of a sort of like athletic look to him with the original toy. But I like that. It's a different take on him, and it's cool. And it's a take I actually really enjoy. And it's nice to see how different this version is compared to the others. The fact that they do look a bit more just different and unique. You know, they're all different people from different walks of life, from different places on the island Matanui. It just kind of makes sense that they would have different looks to them, and I love that. I really do. So this is a great way of imagining it there. It's cool. I really enjoy all these different kind of gears that have been inserted, not only on the sort of like upper body, but even on the lower body as well, because again, that's very reminiscent of the original toy, but it also just kind of looks cool, you know, and it's very Bionicle-y, you know, so I don't think those actually serve any specific purpose. If they do, the images don't seem to show it, and there's nothing in the description that says anything about that, but I like it, you know, because you see that even with like Bionicle G2 and all sorts of other Bionicle sets, the gear functions and things. To me, that's so intrinsically Bionicle. You know, I always imagine that if you were to strip away the armor on a Bionicle, you would see a lot more of the sort of gears underneath it and stuff. So it's nice to see that sort of incorporated here, even if it's just for aesthetic purposes, not for any actual functionality. It just looks nice, and there's something so Bionicle about it. It's good. So yeah, I quite enjoy that. And yeah, just a really solid take on Pohatu, and a nice little arm design too, or hand design. not an arm design, hand design, using some of these, the black pin pieces there as actual fingers and attaching some of those clips onto them and making a hand design out of it like that. Nice way of doing it. A little bit different from your typical Exoforce robot finger design that you saw in like Hydraxon and stuff. It works well. Works really well. So it's just a nice way of doing the fingers there, and it's just a little subtly different from other variations we've seen. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, lovely work from all these different builders. Wonderful Toa Mata collab. And by all means, if you have a collab that you and your mates have done yourself or one that's coming up, let me know, and I'll do my best to make it into an episode. I tend to do it with pretty much everyone who suggests that they're doing it, just because I love that, the community's doing cool stuff. I want to show it. That's kind of what we do here on Biss, isn't it? It's awesome. And so, yeah, by all means, if you've got one, I'll do my best to make it into a thing. And by all means, if I've ever forgotten it, if you've ever messaged me and I've been like, oh yeah, I'll make sure to do that, and I've forgotten, I wholeheartedly apologize. Just let me know and I'll cover it even now, even if it's like a 2-year-old collab or something. By all means, it's fun. I enjoy doing these. So, yeah, let me know. And also let me know, hey, links in the description below to all the MOCs you saw in today's episode, as well as the submission email. So if you want to submit some of your own MOCs or send me an email about this collab you've got going on, that's the way to do it. I did have someone recently email, or actually they sent it to me on Discord, but they were like, hey, is it okay if I send you this? Will you then put it on Biss? And I'm like, yeah, that's how it works. You don't have to ask, can I submit something? I'm telling you now, you can submit something, don't you worry. So submit away, put it in the email, send me images, info, whatever you think is important, put it in the email, and send it my way, and I'll do my best to feature it in a future episode. But by all means, I have a lot of submissions to work through, so your patience is, of course, key, but I'll do my best where I can. I already said the links in the description to the MOCs, but hey, I'm going to say it again. Check it out. See what these builders did. They're talented, and they deserve your love and appreciation if you're willing to give it to them. There's also links to my own social media, so you can check out some of the stuff I've got going on over there. I've been recently posting some Book of Boba Fett related stuff, and some Return of the Jedi, Jabba's Palace, all that sort of stuff, because it all kind of ties together, doesn't it? So if you're interested in Star Wars, if you're interested in Book of Boba Fett, all that sort of stuff, you can check out some of the images I've got over on Instagram there. And you might see some other new MOCs soon on Instagram, because, stuff's coming out and building things. It's fun. So, stay tuned for that. Check the links in the description below if you're interested. Only if you're interested. I ain't going to force you. And also Patreon as well, for the very last plug, and then we'll finish the episode. If you would like to see additional content from me, whether that's the weekly Patreon podcast that I post over there with about 40, 50 episodes of it now. So lots of bulk content if you want to binge more Ben Cossy stuff. That's the way to do it. And additionally, just you can hang out on our private Discord server, see other behind the scenes stuff I'm doing over on Patreon, all that sort of stuff. So lots to check out there if you're interested. Anyway, that's it for some Bionicle tricks and helpful tips and things. I'll see you in the future. Happy building. Bye for now.